Now, the second pillar is about organizing a talk. I call presentation structure. Now, unfortunately, I don't have 8 hours in the video here. I don't have 8 hours. You don't have 8 hours right now. But there's a whole, we teach 7 steps, but I want to give some tips here. Number one, when you organize your talk, there's 5 primary areas. Number one, your opening. Your opening can be anything like a story, a question, could be a physical exercise, could be something that breaks people's thinking pattern. Like, for example, one of the openings that I teach in our class is you go in the class and you look at the audience, they introduce you, and you say something like, I want to make sure I have the right content for the right audience. Please, everybody stand up. People stand up. They're kind of like, why am I standing up? And then you pause and say, if you know anybody who has been impacted by cancer, please sit down. And now, like 70%, and you say, if you or loved one has been impacted by heart disease, please sit down. Now, let's say out of 30 people, you have one person standing, and you say, look around the room. And now people like this. And then you say, when is enough is enough? When is enough is enough? Right? So that means like you 30 seconds, they're like, oh, it's different than hi, good morning, how you guys doing? I want to thanks everybody, all that stuff. I don't teach that. I have 18 different openings that I teach. Second area is pre-framing. Pre-framing is kind of like this. Is not like, for example, I have a big room here, but the camera lens is just framing me and my microphone here. But I have my whole house here, but you cannot see. Framing is the same thing. Framing is how you control what the audience will experience and see, and how you set up yourself in your talk. Now, I teach 8 different pre-frames in a presentation if you're doing persuasive speaking. Now, one of them I call participation pre-frame, which I want to give a little tip here, is that in any communication group setting, your job is to manage the energy of the room. You got to create energy, creates momentum towards the close. And one of the things that I say is this. Now, let's say I'm presenting a doctor or a professional. By the way, I use every single time I speak, I say something like, look, research shows that if I just listen to you, I'm going to remember around 10% of information. If I go like this, now research shows that if I listen to you, see the slides or write things down, I'm going to remember around 50%. Now research shows that if you listen to me, write things down, raise your hand, and say things out loud with energy, you're going to remember 90% of this information. Okay, so the key word is what? Participation. So I explain to them why it's important for them to participate. So again, this is I do before I go into content. So that's opening, pre-frame, and that's something called the body. That's when you tell a story. Now there's different ways to organize a presentation here. For example, you can use the rule of 3. Steve Jobs loved to do that. Today I'm going to talk about the iPad, the iPhone, and about the new technology. For example, when you have the 3 things, or another structure that I use, problem solution. I love that. Introduce the problem, then give the solution. Another structure I use is problem, implication, solution, benefit. That's another way to organize. So I have many, depending on how long do I have, on the content, the topic, my outcome, I tell the story in the middle of the body. Then, so after I open, I pre-frame the body, the pre-close. Now the pre-close also, I have many steps where I organize my talk. But one of the things that you can do is the first thing that I do, I add or talk about freedom of choice in my pre-close, because freedom of choice, sometimes most of us, we're so passionate about a message that you say, no, this is the only way you can be successful. You gotta do this. And the moment when you say we gotta do this or the only way, the audience goes, you know what? There's actually another way. One way you can do it, don't do anything. You know? So I always address the freedom of choice. I say something like, look, obviously, as you have, when it comes to your health and wellness, you have many choices. You know, that little line acknowledges the audience that they have choices, and then I can do other things like future regret, future pacing. I mean, I have several influence strategies that I use in my pre-close, and then I have my close, which pre-close and close, the 2 steps that they merge together. And the close, I do like a very specific call to action. Could be if I'm passing a forms, if I'm collecting business cards, if I'm setting up an appointment, and then I do something to bring back the energy up. Because in influence, you have the law of primacy and recency, what comes first and last. So when I start strong, finish up strong. So usually during my close, I tell a very short, quick story, or a quick analogy, or a quote, or I say something positive to bring the energy up. I close and I'm out. So opening, pre-frame, body, pre-close, and close.